looking at this class, obviously the scholarship kids get a lot of attention, but can you talk about the walk-ons that you have, particularly local guys that you picked up in the past couple months coming on?
Yeah, I think, really in the same vein of what we try to do with our scholarship players, any young person that we bring into our football program, we bring them with a thought to be able to play and impact our team. We only have 130 players that are on our football team. And so I think for us, equally, we're going to put the same time, effort, and energy, into the young men that we bring as preferred walk-ons into our football program. And, I think it's a unique class because it covers, even in the walk-on class, there's a lot of, you got two quarterbacks, you got guys that, Aiden Flora, who, maybe one of the best young football players in the state, for able to come into our football program. I think can do a lot, played quarterback, probably will play running back here for us. Carson Robbins just wins the state championship as a wide receiver, at Southeast Polk. So when you look at it, Caleb Bacon's brother, Logan Bacon's coming in this class. So I think you look at the walk-on, class, and you're extremely excited about all the young men that you had into our football team today. And, as we just told a lot of those guys going through this journey, it doesn't really matter where you start. And I think our program's proven that. You have a young man that walked on our team this year, and by the end of the season, starting on our football program as a true freshman. So I think a lot of credit to Coach Hoosier, a lot of credit to our coaching staff, just trying to find the right young men to come into our football program.
Do you guys use connections with other players to maybe get those walk-ons? I think, Major like Cooper,
Mm-hmm.
Connor and Carson's relationship.
Yeah, I obviously those things work out just because you end up being at the school so much and you get to see some of those guys play, whether it's, seeing them play in football practice or you see them play in football games. I think Connor, we got the opportunity to watch. I remember last January going over and watching a winter workout and watching, him train and what it looked like, and just so impressed with what he stood for. And, Coach Mauser, I think last spring going down and watching spring football in Oklahoma and obviously seeing Major throw and getting to really know who he was. So, yes, I would say absolutely. I think you're going to always use those resources to try to find the right guys to fit you.
Man, what type of player are you getting in Keaton at tight end, and then you got Cooper, and already a very deep room that's contributing a lot?
Yeah, I think both guys are unique. I think Keaton fits a little bit more in the fullback F, but yet also has got a lot like Steve-O. He's a guy that can really, in space, do a lot of things, in terms of the ability to create matchups in the passing game, the ability to catch and accelerate the ball. But like Steve-O, I think when you look at his videotape, he's a really physical football player at the point of attack. And so, a guy that we know how it fits and where it fits in our offense. And then, Cooper is kind of that guy that reminds you a lot of what Charlie looked like coming out of high school. He was obviously highly recruited, but I think he was highly recruited for a reason. I got to go watch the state semifinal game a couple weeks ago, and, I thought no question was one of the best football players that I've seen play high school football. Really physical at the point of attack. I think for his age to be able to block as a young football player, that was really impressive. And then some of his ability to play on the offensive side, again, create matchups in the passing game. He can really run. He's got the ability to stretch the field vertically. I love that he played on the defensive side of the football too. I think it just shows his toughness and commitment to his team. But we really like both those guys. I think they fit. They certainly fit in terms of what we ask our guys to do, and I think have the ability to be great players for us down the road.
And obviously Connor Moberly, it was his dream to be a Cyclone, and now the highest rated, for second year in a row, quarterback prospect in Iowa signing. What can you say about him and his obvious fit?
Yeah, I think you start with the family, and they're a family that certainly, has great roots here at Iowa State. His brother is, an anchor here at Iowa State right now, and, with our student section in our basketball games and our football games. And, and then you talk about Connor. I mean, what I love about Connor is, 2 years ago he came to our camp, and maybe one of the most impressive camp performances that we've had. And we're like, man, this guy's going to be really special. And you watch just his growth process through his junior year and the way he played. And I'll never forget we're getting ready for a game last year at home and watching that state championship game. And I think the second play of the game, he fakes it to a boo and throws a poster for a touchdown. And it's like, geez, this guy's really special. And the next day we offered him a scholarship. And I feel like we've been on a 2-year journey with Connor and his family, and you feel like it's almost like he's been here for a year in some way, shape, and form. And, he fits who we are. He fits what this football program's about. He loves Iowa State, and I think it's a huge addition for us and for our kids and our program. And again, we want to find guys that Iowa State means something to them. And as I told, sometimes I'm the anti-recruiter because I'd rather you run here. I want you to feel like this is a great fit for you and for your family. And I think in Connor's case, it's certainly that way. And so we're really excited to get him. We'll get him mid-year, and it'll be exciting to have him here with us.
For this group of offensive linemen, how important was it to secure Brent and Wade Helton, and what kind of interesting dynamic do they bring?
Oh, yeah, they bring a good dynamic. They're first thing I would just say about both of them is they love football. I think one of the things that was really exciting about this past class that came in, you look at Trevor Burr, who's done a great job for us, and then obviously Brendan Black. The one thing you would say is these guys love football, and they're committed to being great. And I think from day one that we got to meet the Helton twins, you would say the same thing. You got a father that was the linebacker coach at their high school and, man, played high school football. You talk about Centennial High School out there, probably the top public school in the state of California. And you look at the schedule that they played, you might as well be like a, semi-college, schedule in terms of what they play. And then you talk about one that's been a 3-year starter at center. You talk about the other one that's been a 3-year starter at left tackle, and they've played across the board on the offensive line. I think they come in a lot more ready-made than a lot of young men that we've maybe recruited at that position. So for, Coach Clan developed a great relationship early on. Myself, Coach Shieldhouse, Coach Mauser have had great relationships with their family now over the course of this journey. And I'm just really excited. I think their family, who they are, what they stand for is awesome. And then you just talk about that class in general. Dontrell Holt comes from a really good football program, really talented. A.J. Burton, obviously we know is a phenomenal program. We have players, Miles Purchase's high school, that have been great players here, and he's won multiple state championships, comes from a great football background and football family. And then really excited about Garrett Rutledge. Maybe what I would deem we'll look back on last weekend is the steal of the recruiting class in a lot of ways. Again, a guy that's won a state championship, understands what it means to play great football, and we think he's got maybe as great upside as any of the young men we're bringing in our football program. So I think a really good call for us in terms of the offensive line class, and really excited about what these young guys got the ability to grow into here in the future.
Matt, I'm curious about the running back position. You lost 2, you recruited 1,
Yeah.
or scholarship 1,
Mm-hmm.
at least. Are you done there, or is there still?
Yeah, I think as today, I'd say we're done. Now will that change, as we go through forward? We'll see. I think the one thing we know about Dylan Lee, Dylan comes in, he's a mid-year transfer, so, or a mid-year graduate, and, you're talking about a kid very similar to Boo, played in the same, All-American game that Abu played in last year. 2 days ago, played phenomenal. I think he comes in ready-made to help our football team and really push for playing time and push for competition right away. Dylan's up for Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Arizona. Has led the state in rushing. Fits really a lot, reminds me a lot of David Montgomery, that type of runner, that type of football player. So again, I think we're really excited about what that room looks like. It's just it's a young room, but young, and we think extremely talented. So will we go anywhere else moving forward? I don't know. I think we're in a pretty good spot right now, just globally on our football team in terms of positions.
Are you position-wise now, are you depth chart okay? I mean, or do you need to, I hate to use this word on today, but portal, for
Yeah.
example?
Well, I think, hopefully our signing class tells you what kind of program we are, right? I mean, I don't think we believe in that mentality. I think our belief system is recruit. I think that's probably the greatest thing I love about our signing day. I think our program has proven to show it's really healthy. We're going to recruit high school student athletes, and we're going to try to do as good a job or a better job than anybody in the country is developing those guys into great players. And, you got 22 high school signees, you add, 12 great walk-ons, and, all kids that we believe fit the foundation of Iowa State football and its future. So, I think for us, not to say we won't take a kid or two out of the portal, but I think the foundation of building a football program and sustaining a program has got to be what today's about still. Yep.
Matt, 2 questions about Connor. Speaking with him this morning, he said the first thing that you told him after he verbaled was to be a leader and help bring the class together.
Yeah.
What did you see in him that made you confident that he could help not only, be your quarterback, but recruit some of the rest of the class?
Well, I think, again, the quarterback position is just so unique, and I think in terms of, that guy really building that bond with the young people that are going to come in, I just think it's critical. And I've always felt, from my end of things that, the quarterback sets the tone of the football program. And the thing about Connor Moberly, and I think you've seen it, and you guys have got to cover a lot of his high school journey. I mean, again, when we talk about having the right mentality to serve other people, I think every time I listen to Connor, you just feel like he's so seasoned. You feel like he's a young man that's always praising everybody else. He's the guy that never takes the credit, and kind of probably had to do that a little bit, right? With his high school football team, you had Abu, you had so many great players on that team, and yet it's like when you look back on it, you see how great he played to make those guys great players. And so, I just always felt like Connor had that right spirit about himself. I think loved Iowa State from day one, but most importantly, knew who he was, knew what he stood for, and I felt like people would rally around him, and I certainly think that's what happened in this recruiting class.
You're building some depth at quarterback. Obviously, you've got 2 freshmen that are already here.
Yeah.
Then you bring in Connor next year. Where do you see him kind of fitting in that respect?
Yeah, I think competition is what makes a football program really healthy. And, I think at the end of the day, Connor will come, will start here in winter conditioning and just kind of take it one day at a time. I think that's one of the great things about where our program is. You don't feel like we're in need of anything right now. What we need is great young men that believe in Iowa State football and that want to come in here and grow and develop in our program. And I think at the end of the day, Connor brings that to this team and this program, and he's certainly got all the tools and talent to be a great football player for us.
You guys are having at least several, I think, enroll early in January. Can you explain what the importance of that is for those players?
Yeah, I don't know if it's important. I just think it's the way of the world we are. If it was important, then Brendan Black would have been here last spring. If it was important, then Ben Bramer would have been here last spring. I think it's really overrated. I think the reality of it is, if you're not playing a spring sport, if you're not playing basketball, you're not wrestling, or you're not going to be in track, then I do think it's really valuable to come here. You get your journey started a little bit earlier. You get the opportunity to get a semester under your belt. But is it so critically important for you to have success? I think that's absolutely wrong. And, I think what I love about so many of our other guys that aren't doing that is, man, you got guys that are great basketball players that are competing and helping their basketball team try to win basketball state championships. You got guys that are great wrestlers that are finishing their wrestling season. Then you got a lot of guys that are great in track. And, you look at some of our guys that played for us this year, those guys had great finishes their senior year. I will say globally, what I love about all these guys is you look at what our guys did their senior year and you go watch the video of their senior film of every one of these guys that committed to us. Man, a lot of guys won state championships. A lot of guys played their best football their senior year. And so I think one of the nice things about being at Iowa State is we can be right. We can be sure. We don't have to guess. And we can kind of sit and we can do a great job of evaluating these guys through their senior year. And, man, you look at the guys that have come in here, they had really special senior years. So, yeah, the mid-year piece of it is I know it's certainly changed over the course of the last 5 to 6 years. A lot more guys will come in mid-year. But I'd rather a young man, if he wants to finish out his track season or wants to finish out basketball or wrestling, I'd rather him do it because I've just seen it be equally as successful about coming in early.
Coach, talking to the safety recruits, you had 4 guys, one of them a wide receiver turned defensive back. You have guys that they all kind of said they would move around or could move to this position or that one. Is that something that you trust Coach Broomfield with and that he's critical in developing, I guess, or is that something, that versatility that you look for when you're recruiting them in the first place?
Yeah, I hate to give coaches this time of year because you might lose them, but I'd say we got the best 2 DB coaches in the country. I mean, you've got Coach Broomfield that is great a developer as the safety position as any coach I've been around. And then obviously what Hank Poteet has meant to our football team over the course of the last 3 months or the last year has been nothing short of exceptional. And you're talking about moving guys and getting them in great spot to play great defensive back football, which is hard to do in college football today. Those guys have done a great job. And then you talk about, you're right, I mean, Quentin Taylor can play safety. He can play corner. He was great on the offensive side of the football. Marcus Neal, if you watch his senior videotape, I mean, man, one of the best Midwest defensive backs. And you talk about the way he strikes and the way he plays on the offensive side of the football. Carson Van Dinter, I think, is up for Defensive Player of the Year in the state of Wisconsin. You know, one of the guy that can probably play all three spots in the secondary for us at the safety position. You know, David Coffey, playing wildcat quarterback, playing wide receiver. You know, I think we love the competitive length, size, speed of what David brings to the table. Certainly starting at corner, and then Kaijan. I mean, man, you know, an elite receiver. And I think that was for us, it was already that transition, kind of what we saw, you know, with TJ and some of those guys is, man, he's great out of his break. He's got the ability to do some of these things. So, you know, there's going to have to be a lot of development at those positions, and you got to have great secondary coaches to be able to grow raw talent into what we'd like them to do within our scheme. But like I said, I think we got two of the best in the country, and we really appreciate those guys, what those guys stand for, what they do for this program. It's special.
What stands out to you about this class in general?
Yeah, I just think it stays to the theme of who we said we wanted to be from day one. You know, we want to recruit the Midwest. We want to recruit young men that come from great high school football programs. And we want to recruit young men that know how to win and be successful. And I think from the first time that we had one of these signing days till, 8 years later, we haven't wavered off of who we want to be and really what our philosophy is in recruiting. And again, Derek sits back here, and we've got Kelly and Trent, and our great staff in the recruiting department. They aid that vision. They make that vision come to life, and then our coaches have lived, in terms of making sure we're aligned to that vision. But I'm really proud of what this class looks like, and there are a lot of guys that have won and have had elite success. So we're really proud of these guys.
And who are some of those guys that stand out to you?
I don't know if there's one. I think you look at the collection of this whole thing, and you got guys that have won multiple state championships. The guys that have led their football team to the top level of success in their high school football program. You got a lot of guys that are multi-talented, multi-sport athletes that understand what it looks like to compete at a really high level. I still really love that value system. And then, again, globally, whether it's scholarship player or walk-on, I think you got guys that really believe in Iowa State football. They believe where we're at, where we're going, and I think have the ability to really impact our football program. So I would say probably more general than singularly focused.
You guys got about 5 commitments there in about 24 hours after this past weekend. A little bit out of the ordinary, maybe for what past classes were. I was kind of wondering what fueled that. Was it maybe the 13 guys in the portal, or was it maybe just maybe the portal guys you were looking at, maybe not the fit you wanted to where you went the high school route there instead?
No, I think we just took the best players. I don't feel like we had a loss in recruiting, to be quite honest with you, which I think is, again, a tribute to our staff. I think the biggest things for us, we're really trying to evaluate. And, again, recruiting's changed a little bit at the end. I think you're going to look back on last weekend probably in about 2 years and say that might have been one of the best weekends Iowa State football's had in a long time. And the only reason I say that is, you talk about the guys that maybe committed in the last 3 weeks. Those are guys we've been on for a long time. Those are guys that have, again, what maybe Rivals and 247 said that was recruiting them, and what the reality of what recruiting those guys may be a little bit different. But the reality is, man, these are guys that have elite traits. You look at the situation in Dominic Overby. You're talking 6'4.5", 6'5", 10'7". The last guy that did that, is probably Hakeem Butler that played at Iowa State, and had that size and speed and athleticism, and, really excited about what he brings. Garrett Rutledge, same thing. Garrett, injured a little bit his senior year or his junior year, but man, you talk about his video and I know that everybody had some great guys in the state of Iowa's offensive linemen, but I'd like you to watch the senior video and tell me if there's anybody better than his senior video as offensive lineman in the state of Iowa. You know, I think you talk about Elijah Carnell. I mean, man, here's a kid on the national championship team, you know, and a guy that's, you know, size, athleticism will remind you a lot of any, you know. So I think for us, we were looking more of elite traits, man, looking for the right fits for us. You know, again, you're in a great spot when it's so healthy in your football program that you don't have to panic and live in the portal. We're going to live and try to build a football team and a program the right way, and that's kind of what we tried to do in this class.
You mentioned how recruiting's changed over the years. Do you guys still go to the fax machine on signing day, or
Totally
how's
changed.
that happen now?
Totally changed. Literally, you wake up and there's a text message and away you go. So you can sleep a lot easier. That all goes with Coach Hoosier. He kind of takes care of it. But total different ball game. Recruiting's totally changed in that way, for sure.
Yeah, Matt, mine was a little bit of a follow-up to Bill's because it feels like with this December thing now, the senior season industry-wise kind of lost its importance because it felt like these later guys that you picked up maybe were under the radar as juniors, and then you saw a spike in their production as seniors. Is there something to that?
I think, Chris, from our end, it still is huge for us. You know, I think one of the things that's probably maybe where we live in our world of Iowa State football, we get the value of still watching senior videotape and evaluating that. And you know, I think if you've looked back at the last 5 years, I mean, Brock Purdy is a great example of, you know, we've always tried to hold 4 or 5 scholarships for guys in their senior year and try to do a great job of evaluating senior year of high school football. And sometimes you can do that and sometimes you can't. And uniquely this year, you know, we certainly had that ability to do that. I mean, in-state Bo Goodwin, I mean, there's another great example. You know, you go watch a kid and scores 31 points in basketball, and then the night I'm there, it's like 22 points in dunking, and you know, went from 8-man football to a guy that's playing 11-man football, from his junior year of 8-man football to his senior year of playing 11-man football. And, you know, I think everybody's got a story, you know, and what we've always tried to do is I really don't care what our recruiting rankings are. It really doesn't make one bit of difference to me, but I do care about who we bring into our football program. What are the right fits for us? Who are the right guys? And what's the vision for that guy to be able to play high-end football? How do we make sure that guy becomes a great player for us? And I think that's the unique thing for us in terms of the end of this, you know, the recruiting cycle. A couple of these guys that we were able to bring in even at the end were, man, these are guys that we have a great vision for what they can become and what they do because of their senior year of video. And I still think that's, I think that's as critical as anything you're going to find is what's the trend that this 17, 18-year-old is making. And unfortunately, we're in a world now where, you know, you're evaluating a sophomore year film and then a junior film, and then maybe the senior year videotape doesn't look as great. That's a tough trend to break, you know. And so I think, you know, for us, it still really matters and something we value highly in our own recruiting department for sure.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.